And welcome back, folks, to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs podcast. I'm your host, Greg, along with my co-host, the one and only Brandon Scott. In this video today, we want to talk about some other positions. Yes, folks, there are other positions other than quarterback that we need to talk about, and we are going to cover those positions in this video and right now. And of course, this channel is dedicated to the Washington Commanders news and commentary. If you're a fan, if you're not a fan of them, doesn't matter. Please consider supporting our channel. You can do that by subscribing to the channel, becoming a channel members, become maniacs with us, folks. When you do hit that subscribe button, also hit the bell next to it so you will be notified, because our subscribers don't always get notified from YouTube on these videos. So you want to make sure you hit that notification bell. Also, check out our partners, Mint Mobile. They want to save you a lot of money on your wireless bill. So just check them out. The link will be in the description below. So with that said, let's get into today's video. So, of course, there's, ad nauseum, there's been talk about the quarterback. Is it Drake May? Is it Jaden Daniels? Is it J.J. McCarthy? Who is it? And, Brandon and I, we are both in the position where it's like, we don't care at this point. We just want to make sure that we do draft a quarterback, that we feel like he's going to be a franchise quarterback. We are going to back anybody who's going to be playing that position, except for Marcus Merritt. No, just kidding. We would support him if he has to play. But certainly, drafting a quarterback, we are both going to support whoever Dan Quinn and Adam Peters select. So there's no camping for us. Well, I can't say we're Sweden, that we're neutral, because I think Sweden joined the United Nations now. So never mind. Anyway, we're not going to get into politics. Okay. With that said, there's some other positions that the Washington Commanders hopefully will be able to at least attempt to fill in the draft. Now, certainly, as you all know, we were pretty active in free agency, and we filled a lot of positions, but we kind of filled positions with players that are what I consider short-term players, maybe a season, maybe a two, but we still need to draft the future even in those positions. And, some of the positions, and then there's positions we couldn't fill. For instance, offensive tackle, left tackle. We really need to fill that position. Heck, to be honest with you, we really need to fill right tackle as well. And today we're going to cover offensive tackle, some draft prospects for offensive tackle, for cornerback, because we feel like we still need that good number one cornerback. Not giving up on Forbes yet. I just don't think he's the number one. So we need somebody to fill that position. Wide receiver, believe it or not, even though last year we felt like we had like 15 wide receivers on the roster, but we actually do need that solid number 3 wide receiver. Not sure what's going to happen with Diami Brown, but we feel like we need that guy so that maybe we can slide Dotson, inside a little bit, and really have some good outside wide receivers, and of course any other positions we may want to mention. But Brandon, you sent me a list of some guys that you felt like Washington should look at, and you felt they would be very good prospects for the second round, maybe the third round. Although some of these guys, who knows, they may crack into the first round, and so let's assume maybe Washington has an opportunity to move back into the first round to get one of these guys. Let's start off with offensive tackle, and one guy that you sent me was Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle. Give me your 411 on Morgan?
I think that he would definitely be a really good pick for us in the second round because I think he can come in, he can start right away at left tackle. Looking at his intangibles, I'm gonna try to pull him up real quick. I mean, he's got the body for left tackle in the NFL, in my opinion. And so, like you said, a lot of guys on this list, they could very easily be the end of the first round talent. And I think he's one of those guys where, you know, um, our 2 second round picks men are early in the second round. So I would definitely try to scoop him up. He's very versatile. He can play guard, even though I definitely want to see him at left tackle. 6'4", 311 pounds. I mean, he definitely enjoys his fair share of buffets, and I love it, man. He's definitely a guy who's going to show up left tackle. So, looking at his size, looking at the fact that a lot of teams, including the Jets, ourselves, have him on the top 30 visit list. And then as you know, the Jets are another team that need a left tackle. They need a lot of work on the O line. So, that would definitely be a big candidate for me because you're looking at him in Arizona. His body of work is impressive. So, I think that if we stick at number 2 with quarterback, he has to be your next pick. Second round, you have to get a guy like Jordan Morgan, and he's definitely my target because I think a lot of your premier left tackles are going to be gone by the second round. Fashanu out of Penn State, obviously Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. I think they're long gone by the second round. So to me, he's the best option at getting a first round talent in the second round. And I think that's a win-win for his organization because that's the biggest thing that realized, not only with the second overall pick, but really with a second round picks and a third round picks is, for a lot of these guys, you're gonna have to be asked to come in and start or provide a lot of snaps, man. And looking at Jordan Morgan, I think he can come in and be that left tackle for us long term.
So, I mean, reading his draft profile bio, he was initially a 3-star recruit. Opting for Arizona, he made an immediate impact. And of course, we feel like he would have to do the same in the NFL if he gets drafted by the Commanders because we're going to need as much help on that offensive line as we possibly can with still a lot of question marks, in my opinion, even with some of the people that we picked up. His 2019 freshman year featured participation in 4 games with 94 snaps, where he was impressively allowed no sacks. Of course, he developed, continued to develop, and then tore his ACL in 2022, which is always a concern. But he returned stronger in 2023. And Morgan earned a first-team All Pac-12 honors and solidified his standing in the 2024 NFL Draft. So, what may possibly cause Morgan to drop in the draft would be, maybe an injury history. And I know that always kind of scares, some people away as far as drafting. But I mean, if he can stay healthy, he sounds like someone who's able to continue to improve himself. And even if he wasn't the best left tackle, maybe you do think of moving him to guard and where he could probably be very impressive. I mean, kind of like what we did with Sam Cosmi. He was drafted to be a right tackle. And then when they moved him into right guard, Cosmi really became solid. So maybe it could be another situation like that. So keeping with that position, another guy that you had picked was Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. He's 6'5", 308 pounds, sophomore. Wow. So tell us a little bit about Roger and why he's one of your choice as far as a draftee. And you're muted, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Kind of the same as Jordan Morgan. I believe that he's definitely because I mean, if you look at a lot of the prospects as far as tackle, obviously you have Joe Alt, Fashinu. I think both of them are long gone. J.C. Latham's another offensive tackle out of Alabama. I think he's gone in the first. Fashinu is another guy, at Washington, but and you really could go with him. But the fact, if you look at his body work with JJ Penix, or not JJ Penix, Um, with Penix, Michael Penix in Washington, man.
Yeah, Michael Penix. Yep.
Yeah. So my bad. I'm sitting here reading, but yeah, his body work. If you I'm gonna pull up his intangibles real quick, but again, his size, I think he could definitely be a fixture at left tackle. Now, obviously, looking at him and Jordan Morgan, you already kind of covered it. Both of them are, they need a little work, but I do believe they can come in and start right away, in my opinion, because of their body working and looking at their intangibles at left tackle. And like you said with Jordan Morgan, man, he if he doesn't pan out at left tackle, we got a guy who can fill out maybe left guard, because Cosme at right guard, I think, is definitely a fixture for years to come. So the versatility with both of these guys is a big reason why I kind of pencil them in, because, like I said, if you look at the tackles, there's other guys who I think would be good fits, but it's just looking at the overall success of their offense. Like, Talisa Fuaga out of Oregon State, I'm not too high on him, to be honest with you. And like I said, Troy Fontenot, also out of the University of Washington. But this gentleman right here, I think, just his body, man. He is a big guy, man. And he can come in, he can definitely fill that need for the Commanders.
Yeah, what I like is that if he can make it as a right tackle again, maybe he could be Wiley's replacement. Because I still feel like those are two positions that we, of course, need to really improve, and we may or may not be able to improve both of those positions this year, but certainly by next year, you would assume that we will have upgraded both of those positions. Just a little bit with Rosengarten. He took a major steps in his sophomore year, started 12 games, logging 872 snaps at right tackle. Despite facing tough competition, he allowed 15 quarterback hurries and 2 hits, but kept the sack column to 0, which is always really good news. Of course, like you said, he was protecting Penix's weak side, since, of course, Penix is left-handed quarterback. Following that year in 23, he solidified his position by appearing in 13 games, playing 847 snaps, showing improvement in pass protection with only 8 quarterback hurries and 2 hits, maintaining no sack record for a second consecutive year. It's very impressive. That's music to my ears when you're able to not have any sacks whatsoever, and that's always a good thing. Only a sophomore coming out. Who knows? Maybe if he was able to play another year, he probably, who knows? Maybe he could be a first rounder. But definitely somebody I would look at. Now, we're going to move on to let's stay within the offense, and then we'll move to defense. Now, as I mentioned before, I felt like we had like 30 wide receivers on our team last year, and the year before that, I was like, that's one position that we don't have to worry about. And then suddenly, you get some injuries, or some guys get let go that you didn't think was going to get let go, and then before long, it's like, well, actually, we only have 2 wide receivers that we know have proven to be dependable guys, and Diami Brown, maybe he's that third guy, maybe he's not, but we would like to be able to draft somebody else. Xavier Leggett, and let's see, he's out of South Carolina, senior. I always like it when you see seniors, because you feel like at that point they've played enough football to where you feel like they should be able to transition into the NFL a little bit better, a little bit smoother. Hopefully they bring with them some leadership abilities. And so Xavier Leggett, what was the reason for being interested in him?
Oh, easy, man. Easy. I mean, his size. If you look at his size, he's over 6 foot. The biggest, I do like Jahan Dotson. I do like Terry McLaurin, but my biggest thing is your receiver room can't all be under, 5'11", 5'10". We need a guy with some size. And I mean, looking at his size, 6'1", he's got some size to him, but his weight, 221. So he's more of a physical receiver. And I believe on the other side of Terry McLaurin, to really help out whoever the new quarterback is, you got to have a physical receiver with size on the other side of Terry McLaurin. And that's why I kind of advocated, bring Jahan Dotson to the slot. I think with his size, with his speed, with his hands, he could definitely eat on the the inside routes, a lot of these slant routes. I think he can definitely make his money as our slot receiver. Looking at Xavier Leggett, and obviously we're going to talk about a couple more guys, but again, this is a really wide receiver heavy draft, and I would say about 8 out of 10 mock drafts have Xavier Leggett in the second round. So he's got first round talent. His quarterback was I can't even think of the name, man. He's also in the draft this year. Spencer Rattler. So again, his size is a big reason I'm looking at him, because we need a bigger physical receiver on the other side of Terry McLaurin. Because look, here's another component we're kind of looking at going forward at wide receiver. Like you said, De'Ami Brown could very well go opposite of Terry McLaurin if we don't go wide receiver. And I still think we're going wide receiver in this draft. But if need be, if we go corner and other needs before wide receiver, could you kind of showcase De'Ami Brown in a year where we're not really expected to be a playoff team? Oh, absolutely. But I think that chemistry is big in football. You talk about chemistry mostly in basketball, but chemistry in football, especially with offense and quarterback with a wide receiver group, get a guy in here now who's going to grow with this quarterback. And Xavier Leggett, man, he's one of those prospects that if he's available, you go and get him, because last year 71 receptions, 1,255 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he averaged around 17. I don't know if it's reception. 17. I don't know how, but reception. If you look at his body of work, he can play. He can definitely catch the ball, and his size is big on the outside for us. So, and looking at some other factors at the grades overall, they rate him at 87 out of 100. So he's entering late first round territory. 89% on hands, short receiving 89%, intermediate routes 94%, deep threat 95%, and 48% in blocking. So so he checks all the boxes for me as far as that physical guy on the outside. And I think that we definitely need a guy on the outside to help Scary Terry out. And he's definitely one of the guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. His senior year, that is when he really kind of got to see a lot of the field. As you said, he averaged 17.7 yards per reception, which is unheard of. That's outstanding. 1,255 yards receiving, 71 catches, 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, he really ate in his senior year, and like you said, he could be a first round talent if he's able to drop in the second round, especially at 36. I think it's a no brainer. I think you definitely take him. To have 3 guys at wide receiver, modern day posse, that would be outstanding. And there's still room for some of the other receivers that will probably stay on the team. I mean, Jamison Crowder, for instance. I love Jamison Crowder. And who knows, maybe Jameson is able to fill that spot. But, to your point, I would also like to see somebody with some size. This does remind me of the early 80s with the Smurfs. And, Charlie Brown, Muhammad, Alvin Garrett, guys like that, they were small. They could catch the football, but they were small. And so being able to have that, at least one nice tall receiver would be great for Washington, no doubt. You had another wide receiver that you were interested in out of Florida State, Keon Coleman. What were some of the things you liked about Coleman?
I mean, his size, man, is 6'3". I mean, he definitely feels the need as far as having a taller receiver opposite Terry. I mean, he's 6'3", 213. If you look at his intangibles as far as his rating system, 86.6 out of 100. So again, kind of the early second round pick, late first round pick. His defensive, I don't know why I get defensive rating. Oh, well, it says hands 83%, short receiving 79%, intermediate routes 82%, deep threat 84%, and blocking, to me, a big thing that you don't talk about with receivers, man, is that the guy's gonna go out there and get nasty, man. If you look at receivers like the Hines Ward is one of those guys, man, we're known to kind of, get out there and hit people, man. So you definitely like that. But Keon Coleman, man, if you look at a lot of the mock drafts, a few have had him as a late first round pick, mostly second round picks, a few here and there, early third rounders. But like I said, this is a wide receiver heavy draft. And you got to look at other receivers in this draft. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., probably top 5 draft pick. Same thing, Malik Neighbors, Rome Andunze, Brian Thomas Jr. All these guys are pretty much gone by pick 15, in my opinion. Adonai Mitchell is one guy to look at. Lad McConkey is another going to look at. So to me, looking at the second round, really the best value, I look at Keon Coleman and Xavier Leggett. Now, not to say that, a guy like Troy Franklin, his quarterback was Bo Nix. But to me, just looking at the size, man, Xavier Leggett and Keon Coleman, just the size is definitely what we need in DC, opposite Scary Terry. Because again, Scary Terry is one of those guys, just like Brian Robinson. And obviously, we're going to talk about going forward. But those two guys need to really show some promise this year and show that they solidify the control of looking at, at Scary Terry, I'm definitely expecting a 1,300 yard season. I definitely want to see him solidify himself as a number one guy, and having a big physical receiver on the other side, I think definitely helps that. And looking at Brian Robinson, I definitely expect 1,000-yard rusher this year, and I think Eckler is going to take a lot of pressure off him and be able to do that. So, add those pieces to help these guys really come to fruition is big. And like I said, these two guys looking at quarterback, I think they can come in and they can be a really good addition to there was a wide receiver room in Washington.
Yeah, I like what you said, the word physical. Getting some big guys in there who could be physical. That's not just for running backs and, tight ends and offensive line. That's also wide receivers as well. And while you do like some of the quote unquote smaller guys, excuse me, the Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin and guys like that, it is nice to have a huge, big receiver that's going to cause havoc. That's going to be lineup nightmares against smaller defensive backs. And so I like this. I mean, I like the idea of being able to pick a big wide receiver. And I'm with you. I think between the two you've picked, Leggett or Coleman, I think would be great choices, especially if they are able to drop into the second round. Like I said, we have Jamison Crowder, who is another small guy. A lot of guys who really are probably built more for the slot. So to have a guy like this who's with his size, a pure guy who's going to be on the outside, I think it definitely helps to fill out the offense a little bit better. So to me, I think these have been very good picks. So now we're going to switch to the defense. We have a couple of guys on defense. One guy I'm really excited about. But we need a corner. I know people are going to say, "What are you saying?" We got Benjamin St-Juste. We have Emmanuel Forbes. Have you given up on those guys? I was like, no, I haven't necessarily given up on those guys. But I think we still need a good, solid, shutdown corner. And, I have to say, with my love for sugary drinks, this guy makes me love him just for his name alone. But, I'm talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. Now, we're going to draft him because he's from Alabama, right? I mean, that's just who we draft. But Kool-Aid, he's 6 foot tall, 199 pounds. I mean, he's not a big guy, not a big guy at all. But his role is outside man, press cornerback. So he probably will excel more in man coverage. Maybe he's somebody that you line up man on one side, then you line up in zone on the other side. Maybe you have packages like that in your defense. But if we look at his draft profile just a little bit, In his freshman year, 21, he played 11 games, took 479 snaps at cornerback, 10 tackles, 13 assists, 3 stops, 1 pass breakup, and 1 interception. Um, just a quarterback rating of 79.7 when he was targeted. 22, he upped his game, played in 12 games, 794 snaps, 29 tackles, 6 assists, 7 stops, 13 pass breakups, another interception. Quarterback ratings certainly sharply dropped. Um, and of course, he's known for his athletic skills and his cool persona. We need a cool persona in that secondary. We really do. Um, hence the name, a nickname from his grandma. So his grandma named Kool-Aid. Okay. Um, he was also a punt returner with 332 return yards, second in the Division One, and 15.8 yards average. He becomes a promising prospect in professional football. So, um, certainly, and I was looking at footage and going over some other scouting reports, and got me excited about this guy. What do you find exciting about Kool-Aid?
Oh, many things. And I said this about all the guys. Just the physical attributes. Looking at the offensive tackles. Or I always look at it, the size. The weight, how tall they are. And like I said, at 6 foot for a corner, not too shabby. I mean, he's kind of the gray area as far as a corner, but again, his size. But not only his size. I mean, I get it. He's kind of small as far as weight. He's at 199, but you would think that'd be a concern, but then if you look at his numbers, I mean, 87% tackling, 91% run defense. That is what I want to hear, man. I mean, a guy who's not scared to go out there and tackle, a guy who's going to get active in the run defense. He's got a dog mentality. Coming out of Alabama, we definitely have our love for Alabama players that are showing defense, and I think he could definitely come in. Now, obviously, he's going to take his L's. He's going to get burnt his fair share year one, but I think he's a corner who can grow with his organization. I think he's got number one potential, easy. And he is that first round talent. And I'm looking at him not only as a guy who could slip to the second round, but also a candidate for us to trade up. Because I definitely think that outside of quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, and corner have to be addressed. And that's why when I looked at a lot of these prospects that we've been talking about, is around the second round, early third round area, but also looking at who could we trade up for? Because if you look at a lot of mock drafts, man, a lot of people have us not only picking quarterback at number 2, but trading back into the first round because we need a number 1 corner. And I think that Kool-Aid, man, I mean, he feels that need, because right now his draft projection is mid first round to late first round. He's a 4 star outside of 5 ESPN. Rivals.com has him a 5 out of 5. Like I said, he is best on the outside. Now he can do zone corner, but he's best served as a outside man-on-man guy. And I know we're about to talk about Tampa next, but to me, this, if he falls, you grab him without question. But I definitely think that is more on the scenario where we get him would be us trading back into the first round, because right now I think that he may not make it to the second round, and that's fine because I think that we definitely need to trade back into the first round. And like I said, I think a lot of people agree with that. That obviously you grab quarterback at 2, but look, cornerback is definitely, we need a number 1 corner. St. Juice number 1, I don't think is a good option. Forbes, I do think Forbes will bounce back, but right now he's not a number 1. But as far as potential, if we can get Forbes right, and we could definitely develop Kool-Aid McKinstry the way he needs to, then 2 years from now, that could be a formidable tandem in the secondary, in my opinion.
And we still don't know what Joe Witt and his defensive staff is going to do in terms of being able to hopefully correctly develop the corners that we currently have. I feel like we need another corner. Of course, we lost Fuller, so we definitely need another corner. I'd almost say, you know what, I wouldn't mind picking up 2 more corners, honestly, but being able to have a guy like that, as you said, I believe I got back on McKinstry. Yeah, his percentages, coverages, overall 95%, zone 90, He's a little bit more. Looks like he errs a little bit more on the side of man and press coverage. Um, but like you said, tackling and run defense. That's the thing that people don't understand. That you want some corners who can be able to come up and stop an outside run or whatever. Guys who maybe they're going to do a corner blitz on the quarterback or corner blitz even on a run. Uh, so it's not just about coverage in the secondary as much as the overall. So he definitely had some impressive numbers, and and I kind of switched to this guy a little bit too early while you were speaking, so I apologize for that. But T.J. Tampa is the other corner out of Iowa State. I was kind of looking at him as well. Um, you know, he's slightly taller, but weighs just slightly less. So both these guys are skinnier than I am and much taller than I am. But he has some pretty good overall ratings as well. Overall is 86.2. Quarterback rating when targeted 59.6. So that shows you that quarterbacks do not have a good time challenging him when he is in coverage. Run defense not as good as McKinstry, so that might be a concern. But he's pretty decent in zone. Again, it looks like man coverage. He's probably a little bit built better for the man coverage. Tackling, 62%. I would like to see numbers a little bit better than that with tackling. But overall, I mean, seems like a pretty good pick. Maybe a pick. What would you say would TJ Tampa, would he be somebody that you think would make it into the third round?
It's possible. I mean, if you look at where he's projected to be drafted, second round, late second round, so he definitely could slide to the third round, absolutely. Because I think that the biggest concern that we both have is his tackling. And like I said, not every corner. I mean, most corners aren't really your biggest tacklers. I mean, Deion Sanders is probably the GOAT when it comes to corners. And I mean, Deion did not like the tackle. So let's be honest here, man, especially not when he was with the Skins. But looking at TJ, I think that, late second round. So that's why I kind of look at him maybe as a slip into the third round. And if he's there, you absolutely take TJ Tampa, man, because he's got, I think he can develop into a shutdown corner. Definitely. And that's why I'm looking at it between him and Kool-Aid, man, if you're able to get both, I would not be upset, because I'm with you, Greg. I think you need to grab a couple of corners in this draft, because, St. Juice, I think he has a lot to prove. He has not impressed me. There's certain factors that I'm just, I don't know, red flags to me. Maturity was kind of one of those things where, you celebrate after a tackle and all. And I think that Joe Witt's going to kind of definitely deal with that, man. He seems to have a hard-nosed approach. I think he's going to definitely whip these guys into shape, man. So I'm not really concerned with that. I think Joe Witt's going to bring that dog mentality to the defense. So hopefully that kind of rubs off in St. Juice. But, right now, we need to see what we have in Manuel Forbes. I mean, you hold out hope, and obviously there's potential, but, body-wise, there's things that he needs to work on physically and also on the football field. And right now, and what's the biggest pressure with young guys or really players, period? But then you have the potential replacement on the roster. I'm just saying, like, nothing is a kick in the butt more than having a possible replacement on the roster. So if you can grab a couple of corners, and that's why these were the two guys I'm looking at. And obviously there's other options. If you look at the top five in corners, Terrion Arnold, he's probably going to be gone in the first round. Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, Toledo, a lot of teams look at, not only your body of work, but competition in college. Nothing against Toledo, but their competition is not up there with the SEC or ACC or Big 12. So that might hit them, but it has been talent to come out of a mid conference like that. I mean, look at Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he came out of Miami, Ohio. So, there's definitely talent there. A couple of names. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Kool-Aid's right up there. Cooper DeJean. I mean, Enos Rakestraw. So there's other options, but these two just come out to me because they got size, ball hawking ability, and I think to me they're the two biggest value picks because if you look at Adam Peters, man, he's going to try to find his diamonds in the rough. And if you can grab this guy in the third round, that is money. And again, looking at Kool-Aid, if you're able to grab Kool-Aid somehow, whether it's trading to the first or if he slides to the second, and I get that people, some people be like, well, why did he slide? And and you're going to come into question is a character and stuff like that. And that happens every draft. Every draft is going to be somebody who slides. It happens every draft, every sport. Somebody slides. So, but Kool-Aid is a guy that I think we got to really strongly consider picking him up because I think he's going to add a dog mentality to the secondary. And same thing with TJ. So really, if I'm the Commanders, I'm trying to grab both, in my opinion. I'm trying to grab a couple corners, a couple of receivers. I said we both said this before that this is a really wide receiver heavy draft, but corner, there's a good thing in depth. Right now, not a lot of people are expecting too much out of us. So right now is evaluation period. See what works, see what doesn't, see who works, see who doesn't, see who's part of the future, and see who's not. So, with a new GM and new coaching staff, you can definitely really consider the season coming up as more of an evaluation season. So, I don't think you lose with either one of these guys.
Yeah, no, I think you've picked some very good picks here that can really be valuable and guys who can contribute right away, because I have a feeling that any of these guys would be challenging whoever's still there, and probably would start right away. And I think you're going to see a lot of our rookies playing right away, or at least getting a lot of playing time, because in some respects, in a few positions anyway, the Washington Commanders are going to be able to have the ability to draft the best player available at those positions. So hopefully these guys will be available when Washington is on the board to pick them. And just real quick, because I know that we also were looking, one of the needs that was projected for the Washington Commanders, even though we picked up Zach Ertz, was of course tight end. And obviously, we're not going to be able to draft Brock Bowers. I mean, he's going to be gone probably within the top 10. But after him, you got Jatavian Sanders, Cade Stover. That seems to be the top 3 ranked tight ends. I do think that the Commanders, in some point of the draft, may be looking at a tight end. I've just heard a little bit about some of these guys, so hopefully, those of you who really got a chance to really study into the, got to watch college football a lot, got to really, find out how good some of these guys are. In all of my mock drafts, it seems like I'm picking either Jatavian Sanders or Ben Sinote. I'm picking those guys for some reason because they're available. They're available at the point that I'm picking. But I have a feeling one of these guys, minus Brock Bowers, unless by some miracle we're able to get him. But I know there's some other pressing needs. But that's. I think we're in a position right now to where we can pick up some, one of these guys who, even if they're not contributors right away, they have the luxury of being able to develop and could develop into an outstanding tight end in year 2 or year 3. So I just feel like we're at some point in the draft, we're probably going to wind up picking tight end. I'm not sure about safety. I know safety was another position that they thought that the Commanders might need as well. And maybe that's who they pick up. But honestly, I'm thinking tight end might be another position they're looking at. And maybe safety, maybe even an edge or two, because I feel like definitely, you got some guys who I think are going to be able to contribute, but you still want to be able to, that's just the position that you don't have to have just your 2 starters. You want to be able to rotate guys in, especially on that defensive line. So I would definitely think that the Commanders, at least the 2 positions, I think that they look at other than what you have shared with us would be tight end and defensive end. Would you agree or disagree?
I think we have a little time for the edge now. There's nothing wrong with grabbing an edge for depth, but tight end, I agree. And then looking at right now, looking at tight end prospects, you hit the nail on the head. Jatavion Sanders to me would be a guy that I would pick with one of our second round picks. I don't even see because we were just talking about corner, how Kool-Aid man, it's intriguing that if we trade up to get him, cool, he may slide, but if you look at the fact that TJ Tampa is slotted to be around an early third round pick, maybe you go Jordan Morgan, you get that left tackle. But with that other second round pick, I'm going and I'm running to the podium for Jatavion Sanders. 6'4", 245. I mean, his hands, he got about 92%. Good hands. Short passing, 90%. I mean, intermediate routes, 96%. Deep threat, 92%. Blocking, 66. So he's not, he's still relatively a little raw with the blocking, man, but definitely 66% man. He's definitely a guy who can definitely block out there for your running backs, man. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, man, because I think this kid, man, should definitely be one of our second round picks because we definitely need tight end. Because I don't know Zach Ertz being the number one it doesn't sit well with me, to be honest with you. With his age, I know he can still go out there and play quality football, but this kid, Jatavion Sanders, man, yes sir, absolutely. In the second round, if we don't trade back up and we already have a quarterback at 2, if to me right now, our 2 second round picks need to be Jordan Morgan and Sanders at tight end. Absolutely. So, we looked at cornerback, we looked at wide receiver. Obviously we'll see how the dominoes fall. If our guys get picked, then you kind of change the course of what you're going to do as far as your draft strategy. But you can still go wide receiver in the third round, but Sanders, man, at tight end. So I'm with you. I think the biggest thing, and I say that I said this a lot, I get that, but the biggest thing to me is we have options. We have options. We have an adult in the room in the front office. So we have a guy who's going to build this team. And this is a really good draft where we're going to be able to get a lot of guys who are going to be able to not only come in and fill needs right away, but be part of the future and be able to develop and be key pieces towards the Super Bowl run, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I totally get it. I'm excited because we saw what Adam Peters did in free agency, right? And going into free agency, I was tempering everybody's expectations. I was saying, don't expect anything. There's not going to be any splashy moves. There really wasn't splashy moves. But I'm like, we're probably not going to do a whole lot. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, Adam Peters really picked, I consider the best guys, not necessarily because of their names or anything like that, although, Wagner is certainly a big name, but, just that he picked guys who are leaders in their positions who will come in and change the culture right away. And so it was things like that I never even thought of. That, yeah, that makes sense that they would go and pick these guys. Totally made sense to me. So now, knowing he just thoroughly impressed a lot of us in free agency, and we all feel like, okay, the draft is his time to shine. And so I'd almost would be disappointed if the Commanders didn't make some sort of moves to either move up to pick somebody or to move back and pick up more draft picks. And no, I'm not saying moving off of the second pick, folks. Don't get too worried over that. I'm just saying that maybe later on in the draft, maybe they do wind up, sliding down, picking up a couple other draft picks. But I think there's a good opportunity that we do get a tight end, and I agree with you. Certainly I think offensive tackle has to be a position. I mean, I like Cornelius Lucas, but I just don't know. I don't know if I trust him on the left tackle position for the entire year. So I think we're going to draft that position. I agree with you. I think we need corners. I think we need that huge, big wide receiver, that physical guy. And I think we need a tight end. So hopefully we're going to be in positions to where we can draft the best player available that's going to fill those positions. So it's going to be wild, man. And we, 2 weeks, right? And we finally get to know who our new guys coming in is going to be. We're not going to. Well, we'll probably hear some more arguments afterwards. But at that point, what's done is done. Then we start talking about how these guys are going to be able to mesh, and which ones that we will think actually are going to be able to contribute right away. So, Brandon, I mean, I think we had a good podcast tonight. I think we really, we really looked at some guys that I think could be guys that will be available for us. Maybe we may have to move up to grab one of these guys. Who knows? But it's a good group of guys that I think can obviously come in and contribute right away. Maybe not start right away, but guys who are really going to be able to have a lot of playing time. So I'm excited. I know you're excited, and saying that hey, I'm speechless, man. I'm speechless. That doesn't happen very often. So, with that said, you got anything else before we roll out of here, Brandon?
No, sir, man. I'm definitely ready for the draft. So, like I said, a lot of prospects. Definitely. I encourage you guys. Definitely comment below. Let us know what you guys think of these prospects, and definitely go look at some tape. Like I said, physical receiver on the other side. Definitely cornerback. But Sanders a tight end, man. I'm glad that Greg says something, man. He's a prospect I'm definitely looking at, but a lot of options. So definitely encourage you guys to look at some tape of these guys, and definitely let us know who your top 5 guys at each position are. So, I'm good, man.
All righty. Well, folks, just also check out, speaking of the draft, been releasing a few videos rolling back and taking a look back in time at some of our draft since 2020, and actually going in and redoing a mock draft. It was fun. I probably was horrible at it, but since we all, was it what's the hindsight's 2020, and so because of that, I went back to the 2020 draft. You see what I did there, and decided to do a mock draft and redo it. And so if you want to see that video, check it out. It's pretty interesting. I go over, of course, who we actually drafted, and then I said, let's see if we can fix it. And so check that out. I've also released a video for the 2021 draft. And yes, I will release videos for the 22 and 23 draft. Those will be coming out soon as well. So you want to check those out. A lot of people haven't been able to check those out yet. And that may be because you haven't hit that notification bell. But go to those videos and check them out. I think you'll enjoy those. With that said, we're going to end this video. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a like, give it a share. Let us know how we did. Give us your thoughts on who you would like to see drafted. Do you think we got it right tonight? If not, let us know. With that said, we will see you in the next one. Held to the Washington Commanders, and peace.